I pushed it. Here we go. Here we go. Hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. I'm Harper LeBel. Along with me, got Brian LeBel, my son, and we've got Joey Clinkscales. Today, here we're looking at the 2026 Draft Prospect Profile Show. We're going to be looking at a couple of players each and every week and kind of break it down. Joey Clinkscales, our general manager, player personnel director, lead scout, a director of the scouting process. So this is right up his alley. These are things that he looks at each and every day as a part of it to make the NFL a better place and a bigger league. And so breaking down prospects and looking at things from a very intricate, small level, as well as the 40,000-foot view, that's where this is his bread and butter. So we want to say thank you, Joey. So we're going to look at a couple of prospects, one from Auburn, Keldrick Faulk, a defensive end, and then Spencer Fano, a gigantic offensive lineman from the University of Utah. Let's start with Keldrick. And Joey, there's a couple things that impress me. His size, his 40 time, he's just a massive big body. Tell me why I would not want it. Now, let's start with the good thing. Tell me all the reasons that he just jumps out on film and has done so since he walked on Auburn's campus.
Well, Keldrick is an impressive looking specimen, first and foremost. I mean, he's one of the guys you like getting off the bus first. He's 6'6", he's 285 pounds, he's got long arms, he's athletic, he can run, he can bend. It's not a lot athletically he can't do. He's got power in his upper body. He's got enough lower body leverage to make contact and push the defender back into the quarterback, get the quarterback off the spot. So there are a lot of things to like about Keldrick as a prospect.
Robert Bain and Peter Woods are rated as higher defensive ends in terms of the overall status right now. What you mentioned a couple of the features that he has right now, just his size. I think it's a real big asset to be at 285 at that size as opposed to 265, where you can play the 1, the 3, the 5. You could be outside, an edge rusher. You can almost be an outside linebacker, kind of like a Richard Sizemore type guy, that you're big enough and solid enough, but athletic enough to be very versatile and play just about anywhere on the defensive line. Is that something that jumps out to you about Keldrick as well?
Absolutely, and that's the difference between some of the guys that we're going to look at, we've already seen and we're going to look at in the future. This guy is athletic, and when I say athletic, I want you – and I don't want to say he is this guy, but I want you to be in the mind of a Julius Peppers. Similar size, similar athletic ability, a lot of similar traits. Not the same kind of production, but this guy has an upside to get better because he's got length, which is, he's not a short arm guy. He's not a 6'3" guy. This guy's a full 6'5.5", 6'6" with length. Yeah. He's raw, so he's going to need some work. Especially this year. I thought last year's tape was a little better when people didn't know who he was. Now people know who he is, and he's drawing a lot more attention. But he's got power. He's strong. He can run. He can set the edge when he wants to set the edge. He's not great versus double teams at times in the run game. But all those things are correctable. When you have the frame and the tools and the size that he has, all that's correctable. Instinctively, those are the things when I say he's raw, he's got to work on. You got to get a feel for what teams are going to do on certain down and distances and how they're going to play you, depending on the personnel they have in the game. He's still really raw in some of those aspects of his game. So all those things that I'm talking about him being raw in are things he can definitely get better at and improve.
Great points. And Brian, one of the athleticism aspects that I look at when I'm considering that commentary is, can he play basketball? Could he hit one out of the park in baseball? Could he play on any other type of athletic field or court? Can he run with just about anybody on the track? I think he played basketball when he was in high school. But the athleticism to me is that from a watching this guy move, he doesn't look stiff. He's very comfortable doing multiple things, and especially getting after the quarterback. it's really a thing of beauty watching him, especially as Joey mentioned earlier about the strength aspect of him in the upper body at 285 pounds. Gosh, and he's playing at the SEC level. Talk a little bit about that, Brian. Give me your perspective in terms of the all-around athlete that we're looking at.
Yeah, the basketball background, like Joey mentioned, it adds kind of the Julius Peppers dynamic, right? And a lot of guys that can translate from the hardwood, right, to the grass as far as football. It's special, right? The fact that they can kind of take the best of both worlds and mesh into their game. A lot of times, though, you get these kids that have a basketball background, they shy from contact, but Keldrick is not that at all. He initiates. He loves being in the middle of the play. He's very disruptive on the defensive front. He's explosive as well. You can kind of see his first step and the way he gets off the ball is almost basketball-esque. And his long arms, his big frame, he's got phenomenal extension because of that, and he's able to get off blocks. He's able to get around guys. He's able to clog the lanes. He plays everywhere on the front, and he does a phenomenal job of it. And as Joey alluded to, I think his best tape is last year, kind of a down year this year, but he's doing it against Alabama. He's doing it against Georgia, and he's really wrecking the game. He's taking away what the best teams in the country are wanting to do, and then they're having to scheme for him. Probably more so this year than anything else is why his numbers are down. It's just simply, let's run away from this guy, right? If he's on the right side, we're going to run it to the left. We don't want to go at him at all. He's kind of earned that reputation. When it comes to offense and defensive linemen, a lot of times you can kind of be lazy with other positions and look at the box score, but you really have to watch the tape to break down their impact on the field, because sometimes a 0 in the box score for a cornerback or a defensive lineman is the ultimate compliment, because they're not going at you at all. They're not giving you an opportunity to make plays. And I think when you look at Keldrick's game, that's a lot of what he exhibits. It's just him disrupting and them having to make a change and say, even when he's not making plays as far as the tackle and a direct impact, they say, okay, we have to be wary of where this guy is. And I think that's a huge compliment, especially at the SEC level, like you said, doing it against first-round picks across the board. You can look at the offensive line in the SEC. You got a first-round picks aplenty that he's going up against every single Saturday.
Joey, there's an interesting point that Brian brings up there, a great first step. I'm, as a Falcon fan, remembering a guy named Vic Beasley who came from Clemson, who was almost, in my opinion, sometimes he was stealing the snap count from the quarterback. His ability and his get-off was absolutely phenomenal, but he was only a one-way player. In other words, he had to rely on his speed, and if he wasn't able to get in the backfield quick enough, or if a tackle was able to set on him, he was minimized. Mm-hmm. What sticks out in Keldrick's game that lets you know that, gosh, he really does have a good first powerful step, and he can fit real well and get where he needs to be? And my second follow-up question with you would be, I think it would be the worst case scenario that anyone would ever see on tape when they're watching, and the comment from a scout or anyone who's analyzing you going, he doesn't always play with the same intensity. In other words, he may take a play or two off. Is there anything worse for a defensive lineman than seeing that on film?
Well, that's a two-pronged question. I'll answer that one second. The first one is this guy does possess speed to power. So he can get off the ball quickly. He can get into a defender with speed and then overwhelm him with power at the end of it with either a swim move or a under move. So this guy has a small toolbox, which will get better as he gets around more coaching. So that'll get better. On the second question you asked, in today's football, a lot of those guys, and even so at Auburn, when I was watching the tape, those guys rotate in. So when you're in the game, you're expected to go 100 miles an hour. Okay, yes. because now it's not like in the old days where you start and that starting defensive lineman, I mean, he's playing 7 series in a row. He comes out for a break for 2 or 3 plays, and the coach is like, get back in. When Reggie White was playing, he was always in the game. Now these guys, they'll play 2 series and then or alternate every other series. So at Auburn, it looked like this year they alternate every other series. So one series he's in, the next series he's out, the next series he's in. So it's important when you're in that you give 100%. And he does that most of the time. There are other times where I wish he would play a little harder, but that's probably going to be the case with all these big guys because, pushing 285, 300 pounds when you're battling against 310, 320 pounders. I mean, you're in a wrestling match all day. So it's hard to be in a wrestling match and then expect to run full speed down the field. So I would not give a negative for his effort because I think he gives a lot of effort. But defensive line coaches in the NFL will salivate over some of the skills that this guy has and the potential that he possesses. Because, again, he's 6'5", 6'6", 285. He's got a great first step. He's got lean and bend and power. So everybody's going to think we can make this guy a league leader in sacks at some point in his career. And he has it, and he has that potential.
And before I go back to Brian, does it help in the long run that he's playing against a Vanderbilt or at LSU or a Texas A&M week after week, and he's going against some of the best All-Americans that are out there from a competition standpoint? It's almost NFL-like talent that he's playing every week, as opposed to another guy that, even at the lower levels, I'm not defaming any of the other schools. I'm just saying from a competitive level, sometimes you don't get to see the guy go match for match until they're at the Senior Bowl or an All-Star game. Right. Here he does it each and every week, right?
Without question, because most of those guys he's playing against, if they're really good, which most of them are, he's going to see them when he goes up the ladder. Those same players will be there, and they'll be getting the same kind of coaching that he's getting. And that when you're getting similar coaching, that's when your skill set and your ability, your natural athletic ability is able to take over. Now, technique plays a great part in that. You can be the best athlete, but a technician will a lot of times beat that great athlete. So you have to your palate has to be receptive to different types of learning and teaching, and hopefully this guy is like that.
Brian, aside from just playing at Auburn and against the competition that we just mentioned a moment ago, there's also, let's call it the dark side right now. Auburn's been through a coaching change. They've had some issues there. It may not be, butterflies and rainbows every week for him, but he's playing through stuff like that. Talk a little bit about what that means in terms of, I want to see everything on film that is perfect, but there may be some things that are imperfect about the structure of the organization and the team that he's on right now.
Well, you're always going to have adversity, right? That's just going to happen at every level. And the fact that you get exposed to it at the college level and you can still come out and perform, you can still come out every single week and be a factor and kind of put it aside and still, not let it affect the play on the field, which I think he's done a pretty good job of. Now, like Joey and I have said, the numbers are down a little bit, but I think some of that is more so like, hey, last year we weren't ready for this guy. This year we're not going to let him beat us. And, credit to him. He's still playing well. If you watch the tape from this year, it's not quite as good, but it's not bad either at all. And there's a reason why he's still one of the top prospects. Depending on the combine, he could be the second or third defensive lineman taken off the board. There's a decent chance this guy's called in the first round, and they're not going to do that unless they could see something on tape or the talent level that he possesses, not just the physical specimen that he is that Joey alluded to, but you're always going to have adversity, and more than likely, if he's going to get drafted in a high slot, you're going to have coaching issues or changes or whatever else happen anyway. So that's just part of the business. And, it just, in my opinion, it just helps him be more prepared for what's going to happen at the next level.
And really, that being said, I'm not sure he didn't, and I don't know this for a fact, so I don't want to speak out of turn, but I'm not sure he didn't have a coaching change this year as far as the defensive line play, because some of the things he's doing this year is a little bit different than last year. So there's a chance that the defensive line and the scheme is a little different than it was last year. So all those things which we don't know right now because we haven't gone on a school visit and talked to people, but just watching them play, I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't some type of adjustment made from either a coaching standpoint or a technique standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of why I wanted to ask is if that's something that the scouts or the general manager, like you've been in those departments, both of them, if you take some of that into consideration. He's tied for 6th right now with the team lead in tackles. He's got 26, 2 sacks, as you mentioned earlier, Joey. He's deflected 3 passes and he has a fumble recovery. So those aren't great numbers going into this, but I also wanted to make sure that we mentioned a couple things about Auburn and their schedule. At one point in the season, they played Oklahoma, which is number 11 in the country at the time, A&M, who's now number 3. They were 9 at the time. Then Georgia, who was number 10 at the time, and then Missouri was they lost all 4 of those games. and then they just lost to Vanderbilt. I mean, he's going against some of the best schools in the country right now. In the last 7 weeks, he's played 5 of them.
Without question. I mean, so you'll get a feel for what the type player he is, definitely against the competition that he's playing against. But then again, his athleticism, his verbal for the game, all those things stand out on tape.
Well, you'll see him in 2 weeks when Alabama is coming to town there in Auburn. They'll be at Jordan Hare on the 29th. What's that? The day after Thanksgiving, or is that? It's a Saturday. Yeah, it's a Saturday. They play
Iron Bowl.
Yes, sir. So watch number 15, ladies and gentlemen. Here's a guy that the Auburn Tigers are glad that he's wearing one of their uniforms, and he is a force to reckon with. And we're thinking that he has an excellent chance to be a high draft pick. Right now, he's figured to be the 3rd edge rusher taken in the 2026 draft. The other gentleman that we would like to look at, Spencer Fano from the University of Utah. He is a junior. Joey, are we confident that he's coming out this year? There's no doubt about it, right? He's going to leave a little bit early.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. His brother's on the team, so anything could happen. But from a talent perspective, I would be surprised if he weren't the first or second offensive lineman taken off the board. That's how highly he's thought of.
6'6", 302 pounds. He's from Utah. Spanish Fork is where he grew up. He's got the best 40 time at 4.90, right? A 4.9 flat at 302 pounds. He's part of a very good offensive line there at Utah. And it seems like Kyle Whittingham, year after year, gets a couple of these guys that nobody else seems to want, and he gets them in a Ute uniform and is able to make something amazing out of them. They've been doing this for years. Joey, we'll start with you in terms of Spencer. What sticks out on film for you watching him with his pass sets, with his movement and lack thereof? You know, not too much movement means that the defensive end has to run around him, not the other way around. A lot of great things that you see, aren't there?
You know, this guy moves really, really, really easy. The athleticism shows up in spades when you watch this guy play. You can see him pull. You can see him reach. You can see him, make the stretch. You can see him get to the second level and block. He's powerful. He's a strong Polynesian kid that's heavy-handed. He gets movement on contact. He can. It's not a lot he can't do as a pass blocker. Every now and again, he'll late blitzes get to him a little bit. I saw at least 2 times where the defense had a late blitz coming and his eyes were focused somewhere else and the guy got by him, but then he recovered and kept the quarterback clean. But those are things he have to clean up. But he can displace linemen at the line of scrimmage. I mean, just with his sheer power, upper body power. Now, I'm not even talking about lower body, but just with his upper body power. He's got violent hands. It's not a lot to dislike in this player. I mean, he moves, like I said, the 4.9 40 for a guy over 300 pounds is amazing. But when you watch him play, he moves with a lot of ease. And they have another tackle, the left. He's the right tackle. They have a left tackle that will also be a high pick, who's not quite as athletic as he is. But Spencer is a special talent. Most teams can't find one tackle, and Utah has 2.
Yeah. Joey, is it a thing that you kind of look at is you say, okay, he's a right tackle. Do you look at the possibility? Are you able to flip the script on a guy and see if his feet are going to be good enough to where he could play on the other side? Is that any portion? I think of Jake Matthews coming out from Texas A&M. He had been a right tackle, and then he immediately goes to left with the Falcons because of an injury situation. Is that something that you kind of can detect on film, or do you have to talk to the player and just have him work out from the other side to get a real good feel for that?
Well, if we're talking about Spencer, for sure, he's played left tackle before in his life. Coming into the season, he had I want to say he had 20 starts at right tackle and 11 starts at left tackle. So he's played on both sides, both tackle positions. He's athletic enough to do it. Now the game is a little quicker for him on the left side because usually teams will put their power guy on the left side to go to get in the quarterback's face. Yeah. And they'll put the other guy on the right side, the speed guy. So So the fact that he's done both of them bodes well for him. He'll have to be a quicker thinker playing on the left side than the right side. And actually, if we're talking line play, the interior guys really need to be quick thinkers because the game happens so much faster inside with the stunts and the blitzes happening so quickly with the centers and the two guards inside. So that game is really quicker than on the outside. But those guys need to be a lot more athletic. And usually the left tackle more athletic than the right tackle, depending on whether your quarterback is left-handed or right-handed.
Okay, yeah, interesting. Brian, I'm going to ask you what sticks out in terms of your opinion as you've seen film on him. But before I do, I want to mention that the Utah Utes, they only have 2 losses, by the way. Texas Tech, who's nationally ranked, they were number 17 at the time they played them, and then BYU just a couple weeks ago. But Baylor, Kansas State, and Kansas are all on schedule. They could be one of those teams that could be 10-2 when they go into this and really fighting for a spot to be in the playoff. So the team itself could be successful enough for him to be in a national frontline type of atmosphere. But what sticks out? What is something that Spencer does that you go, wow, this is an amazing attribute that I would certainly want on my NFL team?
The way he run blocks is superb. He finishes his run blocks now. There's not a lot of times if there's a linebacker that gets caught on him, that guy's usually going to be on the ground. He's incredibly strong. He finishes through blocks. In his pass sets, he doesn't move a whole heck of a lot. He's got quick feet, but he's incredibly strong, and you can't really bull rush him just based on what I've seen. The tape has been very, very clean. Utah loves running the ball on that right side behind him because he's a phenomenal lead blocker. A lot of times you have a guard that'll pull and kind of, the tackle's job is, hey, we're going to clear the guys out. The guard can pull. Let's create a gap, and then the running back can run through there. And Spencer does a little bit of everything. He's phenomenal at doing that, though. Just everything that he's done. You mentioned what Utah has been able to do as far as winning, and they've done it the entire time he's been there. He's done nothing but really win the entire time he's been in a Utes uniform. So I think that bodes well for him. They've played in some big games. They've beaten some good teams. And, like you said, being able to compete for potentially a playoff spot, the more exposure you can get against better competition, I think the better it is for him. But most scouts, most of these draft websites already have him rated as the top guy just based on the production he's put on, film so far. But, kid's an absolute wall when it comes to being a right tackle. And like you alluded to, I think he could play both sides if he needed to, but the way he plays at right tackle, I'm not really sure you want to move him around as of now, because I think he's the tape right now is just it's very, very good, and everything that he's done has just been superb and next level.
There's some things that you mentioned there early on with the way he plays. You always want him to give mom a hug and to hold grandma's hand when they go across the street and be a polite young gentleman. But boy, is it nice to have a little bit of nasty in you when you're run blocking. Do you see any of that to where he finishes the block because he has literally landed and face planted a defender? You mentioned before we went on the air that when you watch him, you go, his guy doesn't make the tackle. That's one of the great things from a coaching mindset that I would want to watch for. Hey, if I'm talking about my kid, if I'm the offensive line coach at Utah, I'd want to say, Spencer Fano's guy, you won't see him make a tackle on a run play. He just won't. The guy that he blocks will be blocked.
Yeah, and there is the nastiness to that. He blocks like it is his mom or his grandma in the backfield, and he's trying to keep them clean from the guy that's on the other end of him trying to make a play. But it's just what he's able to do, and it's consistently too. You can break down the film of just about it. He had a great game against Utah State. He had a great game against Oklahoma State. Just what he's able to do. David Bailey is a guy for Texas Tech who we broke down film on the show. He did a pretty decent job against him when they got matched up as well. So he's got tape against top players. It's a little bit more difficult. Obviously, if you're in Utah, you're not playing, obviously, LSU or, Auburn, like we mentioned with Keldrick earlier, or Georgia. But you can only play against the guys that are, scheduled to line up against you. And he's done nothing but dominate the entire time.
Well, like I said, he has gone against Texas Tech, West Virginia, Arizona State, BYU. They got Cincinnati last week. They beat them 45-14. They got Baylor, Kansas State, and Kansas. So there are some reasons, Joey, to say that it may not be the same as a SEC West, or a Big Ten, but it's pretty doggone close.
Well, I'll just say this. A couple of his traits stand out. and they're going to stand out no matter who he's against.
Yeah.
His power, his strength, his athletic ability, his ability when he gets on blocks to finish. Okay, so those things will carry over from Pop Warner to the National Football League. If you can do those things at your level, no matter what division, then those things usually carry over. Okay, so and that's because of his inner mindset. Okay, his mindset is, this is my guy. If he's in my path, I'm going to finish him.
Yeah. Do me a favor. Let's break something down. Worst case scenario. Spencer at 6'6", 302. Runs an incredibly fast 40, right? The 4.9 that we talked about earlier. Joey, I'll start with you. Is there a chance at 302, and if he gets to the combine and weighs 298, that somebody thinks he might be a better guard than he is a tackle? Or does he need to get up to 320 or 25 in order to be the perfect bookend type scenario kid that you'd want? Is he fine the way that he is, or does he need a little tweaking in terms of his weight?
Well, I think given his background and the training that he will get in the offseason leading up to the combine, that he'll naturally get a little bigger. He's not going to be a guy that the weight is going to go down. I can already tell you that. Just his body structure. The weight is not going to go down. So whatever he's doing and what he will do in the future, he will probably, my guess is his rookie year, he'll play around 310. And that'll probably be a great weight for him. And I'm guessing he's going to be a first-round pick as a tackle. So I would not – you can find guards. It's hard to find really good tackles. The tackles are the ones that get paid the big bucks, not the guards, unless you're in Kansas City and you're paying the Tennessee guy. However, the tackles are the ones that get paid. So, and he's definitely has a first-round tackle potential in the skill set. So, no, he's going to be a tackle, and he's going to be a highly paid tackle.
Yeah. The way I heard it, I always give credit to people when I hear something, even though it's been said 1,000 times before. The first one to tell me was Chuck Smith, the former Falcon and Carolina Panther defensive end. He goes, the most important person on the field is the quarterback. The second most important is the one that gets the quarterback.
Yep.
The third most important is the one that keeps the second one from getting to the quarterback. So it's just an interesting way of looking at it. Is the weight an issue for you, Brian? Is there anything about his game style or anything that you go, it needs to be a little bit bigger or heavier or stronger, or he needs to work on going against a speed rusher that's 245 or 250? What are some of the things on film that stick out for you in terms of I wish he were a little bit bigger, otherwise he'd be absolutely perfect?
I think the weight's only really an issue if you kind of get bullied, right? If you're getting pushed around, if you can't contain or hold your own. And I mean, he does a great job. He doesn't really get moved very much in pass sets. So, with that being said, I think the weight's just fine. It might be one of those things where if he can play it, like, he's 302 right now. If he can play at 308, if he can play at 310, then by all means, I think it adds maybe a little bit more to you without a drop off maybe in his speed. Because he's pretty quick. He's very, very strong. He's very, very powerful, but he's a quick guy too. And, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I think the only thing for him might be we kind of saw it with Joe Alt this year, who was also a phenomenal right tackle prospect coming out of Notre Dame. And an injury happens, and a team might say, "Hey, listen, we understand we have you on the right side, but we got a right-handed quarterback, and we think you're more valuable to us on the left. And we think it'll be easier to plug in on the right side." What you're talking about, like the guard play or wherever else he might move, I think that might be the only time he switches positions. But for everything that I've said so far, it's just there's not anything to really dislike about him. The kid's phenomenal, top to bottom, and if he's still productive, if he's still being a wall up front, and we're not hearing his name called on Sundays, which is a staple of a very good offensive lineman, I don't think they're going to worry too much about him being at 302 versus 310 or 315.
So I'll just say this: the weight, the 302, that he would be one of the lightest tackle. So I don't expect him to stay at 302 because you're going to face a lot of power. He's going to face power that he hasn't seen in college football. So he'll get bigger. And usually Polynesian guys don't have trouble adding weight, and he'll add good weight from the weight room, from all that. So the 302, and he might be bigger than 302 now. I mean, we don't know though. That's just the number we have. He may be bigger than 302 now, so I'm not as concerned about the weight. And the only way he'll move inside is if he fails outside. That's the only way he's moving the guard is if he fails the tackle. Just like I'll give you an example. The guy I can't think of his name right now. The Jets took him in the first round. He went to play in Philly at guard. He failed the tackle. The big kid from I can't remember where he's from, Virginia or somewhere. Anyway, he went to Philly, helped them win a Super Bowl playing guard. He was the biggest guard in the league at 6'8", 340 pounds. And then Mekhi Becton, he was the Jets' first round pick, and now he's in San Diego. The Chargers playing guard. Okay, so the only way he's going to be a guard is if he fails a tackle.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you fail anywhere, you move in. You don't move out. You move in. And so his teammate, Caleb Lomu, is 304 pounds. So the two of them together are 14 feet tall, and they weigh 610 pounds exactly. But Lomu, Isaiah World from Oregon, Jennings Dunker from Iowa, Caden Proctor out of the University of Alabama, and then Francis Maugoa from Miami are all right there kind of with him. But Spencer is certainly the top of the heap right now. It's not just his 40 speed, which again is phenomenal for a guy that big to be running a 4.9. That's pretty amazing. So his athleticism, his ability, his want to, and obviously his technique. He's been well coached, hasn't he?
Oh, absolutely. And again, I've seen the Miami kid. I studied him and talked about him, and I'm definitely taking this kid before I take the Miami kid.
Yeah, so he's higher on your board, and depending on where you pick, he may be gone by the time you pick. Final thoughts, Brian, before we turn aside. We've had Keldrick Faulk and Spencer Fano, two outstanding athletes that at one way, shape, or form may not be available after the middle of the first round.
Yeah, realistically, I think Spencer, like Joey said, he's probably the first offensive lineman off the board. I think he's that good. You can never have enough quality tackle play. And I think there's a lot of teams, especially bad teams, because you're typically going to have a young quarterback or a bad situation. They're going to want to sure up the front any way they possibly can. And going at a tackle is obviously key to doing that. So I could see Spencer going very, very early. Keldrick is interesting because I think, a lot of people say he's got two guys right in front of him as far as, where the defensive line is concerned. Like Ruben Bain's very, very good. Peter Woods are fantastic players, but it just depends on how much a team's going to need an interior defensive lineman. And I think to Keldrick's credit, he can play all over the place and he can do it very, very well. And he's very impactful. So very high chance that these guys are both first round picks. If not, I think Keldrick goes very, very early in the second.
Yeah, interesting prospect there. But in terms of the Swiss Army knife guy, you may be getting more than just one specific person that fits in one specific box. Both of these guys are capable of playing wherever your need may be, right, Joey? This is one of the things that I think their versatility makes them even more of an asset.
And that's what football today is about. You can't be a box player. You have to have versatility. If you're a offensive lineman and you're only a one position player, if you're not the absolute best at that, then you have no chance of making an NFL team because guys get hurt and the center, the guard has to go in and play center. The left tackle got to go play right tackle, and sometimes that tackle's got to play center. I remember being in the New York Jets, and we drafted Jason Fabini in the 5th round from Cincinnati. Yeah. He was 6'5". He was like 310, but he ran like almost a 6'4" 40.
Oh,
I mean, slow.
Okay.
Jumbo Elliott gets hurt. We moved Jason Fabini to tackle. Jason Fabini played the next 5 years at tackle. And you know why he did that? Because he understood. He was very bright, first and foremost. He understood angles. He was tough as nails. So if you're bright, you have position flexibility, you're smart, and you're tough, you can play in the National Football League. But first and foremost, you have to have position flexibility. So offensive linemen usually, especially the center position, are usually outside the quarterback, is usually the smartest guy on the football field. So all those things kind of roll into one roll up together. So if you have for all you young guys who are watching this show, position flexibility matters. If you are guards, you better start putting that ball between your legs and snapping, because if you're just a guard, you're probably not going to get drafted high unless you're a hell of a guard.
Yeah, work on doing everything. The game of baseball. Many players today bring several different gloves with them to the ballpark, because you have to play middle infield, you may have to play third base, you may have to play in right or left or center field. There are 6 different positions, 8 if you're not a pitcher, that you may be called on and pressed into duty. And if you can do all of those things, or any one of them, in more than just being that one position guy, boy, it makes you indispensable. They can't get rid of you. You know what I mean? Especially if you're smart and you're versatile. And if you run better than a 6'4", but you can move to another position and play enough to work for you can be a very rich man, can't you, Joey?
Football's game of angles, leverage and angles.
Yeah. So study your math, ladies and gentlemen, as Hulk Hogan would say. Do your homework, brother, and take your vitamins and all that kind of stuff. It's important. It really is, and it can pay tremendous dividends. Well, we want to say thank you for tuning in, everybody. We appreciate it. Brian LeBel, Joey Clinkscales, thank you very much. We had a look at Spencer Fano and Keldrick Faulk, 2 of the players that you'll be hearing a lot more about before the season is over, but especially during the draft preparation time. These are some guys that are going to turn some heads. So we're glad that we were able to bring them to you here on the 2026 Draft Prospect Show. We appreciate you being a part of it. The Prospect Profile is what we do here. So thank you very much for being a part of the show. We hope everybody has a fantastic evening. And